Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I'm Greg, and in each episode, we'll explore the spending plan of a household through the eyes of three financial experts, Dave Ramsey, the Money Guys, and Ramsey Sethi. I'm not a financial expert, I'm just a guy with some spreadsheets and a calculator. Welcome to Money Month. Today, we're going to revisit the spending plan of a couple in their early 40s from Ohio with 2 children. Let's get started. Okay, couple from Ohio, let's review your spending plan. Your assets are $171,000, investments $25,000, emergency fund $300, pre-planned savings $0, high interest debt $20,000 comprised of credit card debt, low interest debt $158,000 comprised of a $100,000 mortgage, a $45,000 student loan, and $13,000 car loan. Your gross monthly income is $7,500, net monthly income $5,500. Your mortgage is $900 per month, groceries $900, credit card $535, student loan $475, car loan $480, water $60, electricity $100, gas $50, trash $90, internet $190, phone $240, insurance $550, transportation $500, clothes $100, subscriptions $80, for a total fixed cost of $5,250. For investments, you have $250 in pre-tax retirement savings, $0 for post-tax retirement savings, $0 for health savings account, for an investment total of $250. You have $0 for savings goals and $0 for guilt-free spending. Last episode, we looked at the spending plan through the eyes of Dave Ramsey. This episode, let's see what the Money Guys would say about this. The Money Guys have the FOO, the financial order of operations. Let's see which step you're on and how long it will take you to get to the last step. Step 1, save enough in an emergency fund to cover your highest deductible for insurance, such as your home insurance, your car insurance, your health insurance, etc. To do this, find out what your deductibles are for your insurance plans, and whichever one has the highest deductible, make sure you save enough in an emergency fund to cover that. This step is similar to Dave Ramsey's baby step 1, which is saving a starter emergency fund of $1,000. So the difference between the two approaches is that baby step 1 is a simple one-size-fits-all amount, whereas the FOO step 1 requires some research to find out what your amount should be. Have you saved enough in your emergency fund to cover your highest deductible? Considering you only have $300 saved up so far, I really doubt it. While I don't know your highest deductible, my research shows that an average home insurance deductible is about $1,000, so I'm going to assume your starter emergency fund should be at least $1,000. Similar to Dave Ramsey, I think the Money Guys would also recommend going through your fixed costs and cutting or reducing everything you can. Any money you free up will help you build your emergency fund that much faster. Can you reduce your groceries by $100, $200? Let's say you can cut your groceries by $200. At least until you can complete step 4 of the FOO. The other low-hanging fruit is you're spending $100 on clothes and $80 on subscriptions. I think the Money Guys would suggest you remove those completely until you complete step 4 of the FOO. So far, that frees up $380 per month that you could use towards your starter emergency fund. Looking at your investments, I see that you're putting $250 towards your 401k. Since investing doesn't come until step 2 of the FOO, the Money Guys might have you redirect that money to your starter emergency fund. You already have $300 in your emergency fund, so saving $630 per month towards this fund, it would take you 2 months to finish your starter emergency fund of $1,000. You would celebrate that, then moved on to step 2 of the FOO. Step 2. Save enough in your employee retirement plan to get the employer match. To do this, find out how much your employer matches, then contribute that amount to your retirement plan. The employer match doubles your money. It's 100% return on your contribution, which is amazing. To compare this with the baby steps, Dave Ramsey wants you to pay off all your debt in baby step 2, whereas the Money Guys want you to get this 100% return on your money because getting 100% return mathematically still beats out paying 20 to 30% on a high interest debt. Have you saved enough in your employee retirement plan to get the employer match? In step 1, we redirected your retirement savings to your emergency fund, so you're not currently getting the employer match. To do this, determine your employer match. Let's say it's $100 per month. Once you set your contribution to equal the match, then congratulations, you've completed step 2 of the FOO. Celebrate that and move on to step 3. Step 3. Pay off high interest debt. In general, this kind of debt is credit card debt, where interest rates are obviously high, like 15%, 18%, or 22%. I think there's even some credit card interest rates that are as high as 30%, which is insane. The Money Guys want you to pay this off in step 3 and do whatever it takes to get this paid off as quickly as possible, which is similar to Dave Ramsey's approach to debt, except the Money Guys are only concerned with high interest debt for step 3. Paying off low interest debt doesn't come until step 9, the very last step of the FOO. However, what they consider low interest debt and high interest debt is not always a simple answer. It depends on your age and the interest rate. For example, in your 20s, if you have an interest rate greater than 6%, this might be considered high interest debt. In your 30s, if the interest rate is greater than 5%, that might be considered high interest debt. In your 40s, if the interest rate is greater than 4%, this might be considered high interest debt. And in your 50s, any debt might be considered high interest debt.
Have you paid off all high interest debt? No, not yet. You have $20,000 in credit card debt, $45,000 on a student loan, and $13,000 on a car loan. Since you're in your 40s, the Money Guys consider any interest rate that's greater than 4% to be high interest debt. And I'm going to assume that all of the interest rates are greater than 4%. Before we move on to discuss a strategy for paying these off, let's review what the Money Guys might say about your car loan and your student loan. The Money Guys have a car buying rule called the 23-8 rule. If you can't pay cash for a car, then only buy the car if you can put at least 20% down, pay off your car in 3 years or less, and your car payment should not be more than 8% of your gross monthly income. They also have one last car buying rule that your car payment should not exceed the amount that you save towards investments. Let's see if your car loan follows these rules. Did you put at least 20% down? I don't know the purchase price or your down payment, so I can't weigh in on this, but if you didn't put at least 20% down, then the Money Guys would advise you to not purchase this vehicle until you could put 20% down. Will you pay off your car in 3 years or less? Let's pull up a debt payoff calculator to see how long it would take you to pay off your car loan. Your current balance owed is $13,000. I don't know your interest rate, so let's put it in 5%. If you paid $480 per month, it would take 29 months to pay off, which is about 2.5 years. Again, I don't know the purchase price or your down payment, so I'm not able to determine how many months or years you've already been paying for this vehicle. But if the loan period was more than 3 years, then the Money Guys would have advised you to not purchase this vehicle unless you could afford a loan period of 3 years or less. Is your car payment more than 8% of your gross monthly income? 8% of your gross monthly income would be $600. Your payment is $480, which is less than that, so we know that at least that part adheres to the 23-8 rule. Lastly, is your car payment less than the amount that you saved towards investments? No, you were saving $250 towards investments while your car payment is $480, so you're breaking this last Money Guys car buying rule. So they would have advised you to find alternative transportation until you can adhere to these rules. Find the cheapest vehicle that will safely get you to your job and back. Since you already have the vehicle, they might advise you to trade in the car for a paid-for one instead. Now let's review what the Money Guys might say about your student loan. The Money Guys have a rule about student loans that the amount of your student loan should not exceed the amount you expect to make for your first year salary. For example, if you expect to make $30,000 in your first year after graduating, then you should not get a loan of greater than $30,000. For another example, let's look at it from the other way. If you can't afford higher education without getting a student loan for $75,000, then you need to make sure that your first year's salary after graduating will be at least $75,000. If your loan amount will exceed your projected first year salary, then the Money Guys would advise you to find a way to graduate without exceeding that first year salary, or possibly changing your major to something that would raise your first year salary to match or exceed the amount of the student loan. Your loan amount is now $45,000, and your yearly salary is $90,000, so you're currently adhering to this Money Guy rule. However, I don't know your original loan amount or how many years you've been paying it off, so it's difficult to determine whether you were adhering to this rule in your first year after graduating. Now let's move on to the Money Guy strategy for paying off this debt. While Dave Ramsey would recommend using the debt snowball to pay these off, the Money Guys would recommend using the avalanche method, where you pay off your debt in order from the highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, because mathematically you will pay less in interest that way. They acknowledge that the snowball method can be more motivating for some people, so if you're one of those people, then use that method. Otherwise, use the avalanche method. We already covered the snowball method in the previous episode, so let's see what it will look like if you use the avalanche method. My guess is that your credit card debt has the highest interest rate. You are putting $630 per month into your emergency fund in step 1. In step 2, you use $100 per month into your 401k. That leaves you with $530 per month to put toward paying off your credit card debt. This would mean that instead of paying $535 on your credit card each month, you would pay $1,065. Let's pull up a debt payoff calculator to see how long it would take you to pay off your credit card. Your current balance owed is $20,000. I don't know your interest rate, so let's put in 20%. If you paid $1,065 per month, it would take 23 months to pay that off, which is almost 2 years. After you pay off your credit card debt, celebrate that, then move on to the next highest interest rate, which I'm going to guess is your car loan. You would redirect the $1,065 you were putting towards your credit card debt, and now use that to pay down your car loan. This would mean that instead of paying $480 on your car loan each month, you would pay $1,545. So let's pull up a debt payoff calculator to see how long it would take you to pay off your car loan. During the 2 years that you were paying off your credit card, your car loan balance probably would have decreased, but for simplicity's sake, let's say your current balance owed is $13,000. I don't know your interest rate, so let's put in 5%. If you paid $1,545 per month, it would take 9 months to pay that off. Again, if you were able to sell the car and buy something much cheaper, then you could potentially save yourself those 9 months of paying off this debt, as well as the nearly 2 years of paying the minimum $480 when you were focused on paying off your credit card debt. After you pay off your car loan, celebrate that, then move on to your last remaining non-mortgage debt, which is your student loan. You would redirect the $1,545 you were putting towards your car loan, and now use that to pay off your student loan. This would mean that instead of paying $475 on your student loan each month, you would pay $2,020. Let's pull up a debt payoff calculator to see how long it would take you to pay off your student loan. During the years that you're paying off your credit card and your car loan, your student loan balance probably would have decreased, but for simplicity's sake, let's say your current balance owed is $45,000. I don't know your interest rate, so let's put in 5%. If you paid $2,020 per month, it would take 2 years to pay that off. After you pay off your student loan, celebrate that. All of your non-mortgage debt would be paid off, and it would have taken almost 5 years. 5 years is a long time to go without a fully funded emergency fund and without investing more for retirement. So the Money Guys might suggest a modified plan to pay off your debt. Since it's urgent to pay off your credit card debt, they would have you tackle that first. But after you pay off your credit card debt, the Money Guys might suggest that instead of solely focusing on paying off the 2 other lower interest debts, that you just pay a little extra on your next highest interest rate debt, concurrently while you move on to the next steps. That strategy is a little closer to Ramsey Sathi's approach, which we'll cover in the next episode. For this episode, let's say it took you almost 5 years to complete step 3 of the FOO, and let's move on to step 4.
Step 4. Save enough in your emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 months of expenses or greater.
How much is 3 to 6 months of expenses? To find that out, you take your fixed costs and multiply that by 3 and 6. Let's see, your fixed costs are $3,380. So 3 months of that would be $10,140, and 6 months would be double that, which would be $20,280. Have you saved enough in your emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 months of expenses or greater? No, when you reach baby step 3, your emergency fund is $1,000. How long would it take you to save 3 months and 6 months of expenses? Well, you've already saved $1,000, so for the 3-month emergency fund, you would need to save another $9,140, and for the 6-month emergency fund, you would need to save another $19,280. At the end of step 2 of the FOO, you are putting $2,020 to pay off your student loan. Now that it's paid off, you would use that amount to save into your emergency fund. So for the 3-month emergency fund, saving $2,020 per month, it would take you about 5 months to save up $9,140 to total $10,140 in your emergency fund. For the 6-month emergency fund, saving $2,020 per month, it would take you about 10 months to save up $19,280 to total $20,280 in your emergency fund. If you're a single income household and you have a stable job, you might want to go with the 3 months, otherwise save 6 months. Let's assume you want to go with a 6-month emergency fund. That means step 4 of the FOO would take you about 10 months to complete. You'd celebrate that and move on to step 5 of the FOO.
Step 5. Save the max amounts in a Roth IRA and health savings account if you're able to contribute to those. They specify the Roth IRA because with that account, you can withdraw that money tax-free at retirement. Then, if there's any money left, contribute the max amount you can into a health savings account. If you can't invest the max, then start by doing what you can, then increase that amount every year until you reach the max.
Your gross monthly income is $7,500. Multiply that by 25% to determine how much you should save towards investments. That's $1,875. You're already contributing $100 per month to get the employer match, which means you just need to contribute $1,775 more to reach the goal of investing 25% of your gross monthly income. In step 4 of the FOO, you are putting $2,020 per month towards your emergency fund. Now that's done, you could use $1,775 towards investments in step 5. First, find out the maximum amount you can contribute to a Roth IRA. You'd have to look up what the limits are, but in 2024, if you're under age 50, you can contribute $7,000 for the year, which is about $583 per month for 12 months of contributions. Adjust as necessary if you're starting later in the year. Once you've set up that account, invested the $583 per month into a low-cost fund, and automated a recurring payment into that fund, then you've maxed out your Roth IRA. What about the health savings account? You started out with $1,775 per month to contribute to investments, and you've spent $583, which leaves you with $1,192 left to contribute to your HSA. In 2024, families can contribute up to $8,300 in their HSA accounts, which is $691 per month for 12 months of contributions. So you can use $691 per month to max out your contributions. Once you've done that, then you're done with step 5. Celebrate that, then move on to step 6 of the FOO.
Step 6. Save the max amount in your employer retirement plan.
For 2024, the 401k contribution limit is $23,000 per year, which is about $1,916 per month. After step 5 of the FOO, you have $501 left to contribute to your pre-tax retirement savings. So you would add this to your retirement savings to bring the pre-tax savings to $601 per month, and your total investments to $1,875 per month. While this doesn't quite reach the max contribution limit, you've now hit the step 7 goal of investing 25% of your gross monthly income, which means you've completed steps 6 and 7. You should celebrate that and move on to step 8. But before you do, let's look at a retirement calculator to see what this investing will add up to when you reach retirement age. We estimated that it would take you about 6 years to get to step 5, unless you increased your income, sold things, and or reduced your expenses even further to achieve your goals faster. I know you're in your early 40s, so let's say you're 42. For 6 years, until you're 48, you were contributing $100 per month to get the employer match, which would be $2,400 per year. And according to the spending plan, your current retirement savings are $25,000. So by age 48, you should have about $54,686. At which time, you increased your investments to 25% of your gross monthly income. Let's put your expected retirement age at 65 and a 7% rate of return. You're going to contribute $1,875 per month plus the $100 employer match, which is $23,700 per year. And your current retirement savings are now $54,686. By age 65, without ever increasing your contributions in 17 years, you should have about $903,656. With a 4% safe withdrawal rate, that will give you about $36,146 to live off of in retirement. Note that if this isn't enough, then you could extend your retirement age to something like 67 or 70. Let's play out those two scenarios. If you retired at 67, you would have $1,083,655. With a 4% safe withdrawal rate, that would give you about $43,346 to live off of in retirement. If you retired at 70, you would have $1,403,717. With a 4% safe withdrawal rate, that would give you about $56,148 to live off of in retirement. If this still isn't enough, then you could consider increasing your investment percentage to greater than 25%. Also note that if you ever get raises and you're able to increase your contributions during those years, your savings could add up to a lot more than that.
Step 8. Prepay future expenses like college for your kids, your next vehicle, a house down payment, etc. To compare this with Dave Ramsey's baby steps, this is similar to baby step 5 that deals with funding your child's college fund. And while Dave doesn't mention using baby step 5 to save for future expenses like your next vehicle or a house down payment, that seems like the logical step where you would save for these future expenses.
As I mentioned earlier, at the end of step 4, you are putting $2,020 towards your emergency fund. And for FOO step 5, you're only putting an additional $1,775 towards investments, which leaves you an extra $245 per month. What will you do with the extra money? At this point, if you followed these steps in the timeline we've determined, then you've spent 6 years with reduced spending on groceries, no spending on clothes or subscriptions, no saving for future expenses like your next vehicle or college savings for your kids, and no guilt-free spending. This might be a good time to use that $245 for some or all of these categories. The Money Guys don't specify any suggested amounts or percentages for these categories, so it's up to you and your goals. Depending on how much you put towards groceries, clothing, and subscriptions, you may have little money left for Step 8. But whatever amount you have left, you would use it to begin prepaying for future expenses like college savings, your next vehicle, etc. Until you're able to allocate enough of your monthly income towards those future expenses, then you would remain on Step 8 until you could do so. So there you have it, the Money Guys financial order of operations. To recap, you're currently on Step 1. It will take you about 2 months to complete it, then about 5 years to complete Step 3, and 10 months to complete Step 4. So altogether, that's 6 years to reach Step 5 of the FOO. You would be able to complete Steps 5, 6, and 7, and you would remain on Step 8 until you can allocate an appropriate monthly amount to prepay your future expenses. And by the time you're 65 years old, you should have about $903,656 saved for retirement. If you have any comments or questions about the spreadsheets, the MoneyMonth app, or my analysis of anything, feel free to hit me up in the comments, and I'll do my best to respond to you in the comments or in a future episode. I'll put links out there for you to download those for free in case any of those look useful to you. In the next episode, we'll look at your spending plan through the eyes of Ramsey Sethi and take you up his ladder of personal finance. Whether you're following Dave Ramsey's baby steps, the Money Guys FOO, Ramsey Sethi's ladder of personal finance, or your own plan, the key is finding a plan that works for you and sticking to it. And that's a wrap on another episode of Money Month. Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, review, add comments, and tell your friends. If you want to play along at home, I'll add some links so you can download the spreadsheets in the desktop app. We'll be back soon with more tips, tricks, and insights to help you achieve your personal finance goals. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making every month count with Money Month.